In this episode, we're going to look at how to configure IPv6 addressing. I'll show you how to do it, and we'll talk about the concepts along the way. In this activity, we're going to practice configuring IPv6 addresses on routers, servers, and clients. We'll also practice verifying our IPv6 addressing implementation. Greetings to all my tech heads out there in the KevTechify nation, and if you're new here, welcome. This episode is part of my series on configuration examples for the CCNA. I'm Kevin here at KevTechify. Let's get this adventure started. Configure IPv6 addressing. I have the packet tracer file loaded up right here. On the left side, this is our work area where we're going to do all our configurations, interact with our devices. On the right side, I have the actual packet activity window here. I don't have a Word document open because there is nothing to save, no questions to fill in, no blanks to fill in, and save your answers. There is no Word document here for this packet tracer lab. Looking at our address table, we have all of the IPv6 addressing information for all of the devices on our network. We have R1. R1 is in the center of our network here. The center of our network. It has three interfaces, gig 00, gig 01, and serial 000. Gig 01, gig 00, and gig 01, they go to our local area networks. They come down here, they connect into it. Serial 000, that goes up to our internet service provider. That provides us with our internet connectivity. We look here, look at the G00 interface. We have two IPv6 addresses assigned to it. One address here that starts with the 2001, that is our global unicast IPv6 address. That gets assigned to the interface. It's routable on the internet. The second address here is our link local address, FE80::1. That is the address that is local, only usable on our local area network. Only usable in this area of our network. It doesn't get routed across the internet. This is the preferred address to use for your default gateway. On R1 G00, this interface right here, that is our default gateway for all of the other devices on our local area network. The preferred method is to use that link local address, not the global unicast address. Another thing to see here is this is the full 128 bits version IPv6 address. That is our full 128 bits. They're shown in hexadecimals, groups of 4 hexadecimals. That makes a hextet. We have a slash number, which is called our prefix at the end, that identifies how many bits are in the network portion. Of that 128 bits, 64 bits, exactly half, are in the network portion. The remainder, that's 64 bits, that is in the interface ID portion of our IPv6 address. You can break down this prefix part, the first 64 bits, you can break it down into the first 3 hextets, the first three groupings of numbers separated by colons here. That's the first 3 hextets. That represents the global routing prefix. The last 16 bits here, that last hextet where this number 1 is that I'm highlighting, that represents the subnet ID. You can take your global routing prefix and you can break that into smaller networks. You are subnetting your IPv6 address into smaller networks where you can go ahead and manage it. Looking at our G00 interface, our global prefix is here. That's the same global prefix as on G01. That's the same global prefix that is on our serial 00 interface, our connection to our ISP. But that 4th hextet, it's the one I'm highlighting right here. That's the subnet ID. And notice G01 has a 1, or sorry, G00 has a 1, G01 has a 2, and then our serial 00 interface has an A001. That makes looking at those first 64 bits, each one of those different. Because they're different networks. They need to be connected by a router, and that's exactly what we have over here. R1 is connecting up these three routers. Routers route between networks. Here's our objectives. We're going to configure IPv6 addressing on a router, on some servers, and on a client. And then once we've done that, we're going to test and verify the connectivity. Part 1, configure IPv6 addressing on the router. What we're going to do is we're going to take R1 here and we're going to configure it. Notice right now that these connections are down. There's a triangle here that's pointed down, and they're also red, signifying that there's something wrong. It needs to be configured. What we want is to turn these into upward green facing arrows when we're done. Going through part 1 here, it will turn these arrows into green. Part 1, step 1, enable the router to forward IPv6 packets. By default, a router does not route IPv6 traffic. You need to turn it on. IPv4 is enabled by default. IPv6 you need to turn on. The command to do that is IPv6 unicast routing. What I'm going to do is click on R1. R1 opens up a window. I only have access to the CLI here. I'm going to go ahead, hit enter a couple times, give me some clean working area. I have the greater than sign. That means we are in user exec mode. The mode we need to be in here is global configuration to enter in our IPv6 unicast-routing command. What I need to do is go from user exec to privilege exec. Go ahead and type enable. Takes us there. Notice our prompt has changed from the greater than sign to, I guess the technical name is octothorpe. Some people call it the hashtag, the pound sign. My personal favorite is the waffle sign. That signifies we're in privilege exec mode. Then to get in global configuration mode, we go ahead and type config T. Our prompt now changes once again. We have config in parentheses. At this point in time, we can go ahead and enter IPv6 unicast routing. IPv6 unicast-routing. And hit enter. Congratulations, you have successfully enabled IPv6 unicast routing. How do we tell we've enabled it? Well, this is something the Cisco operating system does. And I view it this way. No news is good news. If you type the command in correctly and you have all the correct numbers and the configurations and options in there, and you hit enter, Cisco is not going to say congratulations. Cisco is just not going to say anything at all. If you type in something wrong, Cisco is going to give you an error message. It's going to give you a warning. It's going to let you know you did something wrong. Right here, I typed in IPv6 space unicast-routing, hit enter. It gave me nothing back. I'm assuming that IPv6 unicast is routing because I didn't get any warning or error messages. That takes care of part 1, step 1. On to part 1, step 2. Configure IPv6 addressing on the gig00 interface. Enter the commands necessary to move to the interface configuration mode of gig00. The command to do that is interface, or INT, and then you put in the name of the interface, gig0/0. First 0 stands for what control plane it's on. Second is what port on that control plane. There we have it. Notice once again our prompt has changed from just config to config IF, signifying you're configuring an interface. You are in that interface configuration mode. From here, we can go ahead and configure our global unicast IPv6 address. Here's the command to do that. It's almost identical as the IP version or IPv4 address, except you type in IPv6 because that's what we're using. The keyword of address, and then the actual address, it's the actual IPv6 address, followed by not the subnet, but the prefix, the /64. I'm going to go ahead and enter that in IPv6 address of 2001:DB8:1:1, and then our prefix /64. Go ahead and enter that in. Once again, notice, no news is good news. We also need to configure the link local address. Almost the same command, IPv6, keyword of address. Here is the link local address we're doing. Now, instead of putting the prefix, instead of putting the /64 at the end, what we do is we put the option of link local at the end. That says this is a link local address, assign it that way. Entering in the command IPv6 address FE80::1, then the option of link-local. No news is good news from Cisco. We assume we're doing that. And every time you do something with an interface, always do a no shutdown on it. We have to turn it on. The command to do that is no shutdown, no space shutdown. There we go. We get two system messages. First message, interface gig00 has changed state to up. You have turned on that port. That port has a good layer 1 connection. It has a wire plugged into it. The other end of that wire is plugged into another device that's configured. That is what the interface up means. Next system message here is line protocol is changed state to up. That means you've configured a protocol on it. Here, IP version 6 is our protocol. There was no errors on it. It was able to turn on. Your goal as the network administrator is to get interface up, line protocol up, or what we typically refer to as up. When somebody says what's the status of your port, you can say it's up. And most people will understand what that means. That takes care of step 2 for part 1. On to part 1, step 3. Configure the IP addressing for Gigabit Ethernet 01. Enter the commands to move into the interface configuration mode of Gig 01. Refer to the addressing table for the correct IPv6 addresses. Configure IPv6 address, that's the global unicast address, the link local address, and activate the interface. I'm going to hit enter a couple of times, give me a clean working area. Type in exit, that goes from interface configuration mode to global configuration. Now we can go ahead, move back into the interface they're asking us, gig 01, int space G0/1. Our prompt now changed from global configuration mode to interface configuration mode. Now we can set the IPv6 address. I'm just going to scroll up here in the chart. Here's our gig 0 information, our IPv6 address, and our link local address. IPv6 space address 2001:DB8:1:2 :1. We put it in our prefix /64. That enters in our global unicast address. Now for our link local address. Starts off the same, IPv6 address. That address once again was FE80::1. Instead of putting a prefix, because this is a link local address, you put in the option of link-local. Hit enter. Cisco didn't give us any feedback. No news is good news. We're assuming that's all working. Let's go, and because we're working on an interface, we need to make sure we turn it on. Once again, the command to turn that interface on or to activate it is no space shutdown. There it is. We get our two system updates saying interface has changed to up, line protocol has changed to up. We are doing good. That takes care of step 3 for part 1. Now on to step 4. Configure IPv6 addressing on the serial 00 interface. Okay, previously when we changed from gig 00 to gig 01, we exited out and then we typed in interface gig 01, the new interface we wanted to go to. There's a little bit of a shortcut. Because we are configuring an interface, currently we are in interface G01, we can just switch into another interface. You don't have to exit out and then go back in. You can just type in the new interface command, int space S for serial. First 0 stands for what control plane it is. Second 0 stands for what slot it is that holds a card. And the last 0 stands for what port on that card is it. That's where the 3 zeros come from. I hit enter. No news is good news. I can go ahead, enter in the IPv6 addressing. Scroll up here. We are on the serial 00 interface. Go ahead and enter in our commands. IPv6 address 2001:DB8:A001 double colon there 2/64. There we go. No news is good news. We need to set our link local address, IPv6 space address FE80::1 option of link dash local. There we go. And of course, we are working on an interface. We have to activate it. We have to turn it on. That command is no space shutdown. Get our first update. Interface has changed state up. Give it a minute. Line protocol should come up and say, or line protocol should say up here in a second. And there it is. Line protocol has changed state to up. We have configured both of those correctly. That takes care of part 1, step 4. On to part 1, step 5. Verify IPv6 addressing on R1. Good practice to verify our IP addresses. Catch any problems we have early. Step A, exit configuration mode. Well, we're actually in interface configuration mode, so we need to exit out once to get into global configuration mode, or what they're calling configuration mode. Exit out again. That takes us into privilege exec mode. Hit enter a couple times. Give me a clean working area. Verify the addressing configured by issuing the following command. Show IPv6 interface brief. Sound familiar? Almost identical to the IPv4 command. IPv4 command looks exactly like this, except instead of saying IPv6, it just says IP. IP is for IPv4. Go ahead. We're going to go ahead and enter that in. Show IPv6 interface brief. Here's a listing of our interfaces and the IP addresses assigned to them. I'm going to scroll up to our chart here, look at this, and see. We are on R1. This is R1. These are all the IP addresses. Gig00 has the link local address of FE80::1. That's what we have. And if we notice, we have those all assigned to each of those interfaces. Each interface has the exact same link local address. That's possible because each one of those are different networks, and they're only specific to that network. As soon as they actually get into the router to be routed, that link local address, anything that starts with FE80 is dropped, is deleted. They don't route those FE80s, those link local addresses. And so we can look over here. Here's FE80 on gig00, gig01, FE80::1, and on our serial interface, FE80::1. Those are all set correctly. We have gigabit Ethernet 02. We're not doing anything with it, so it's unassigned at this point in time. Let's go through and verify our global unicast address, the ones that start with 2001. Looking at our gig00 interface, 2001 DB9:1:1 double colon and 1. Because that address is set, there is no prefix, there is no slash number. That number is set. You only use that prefix, only use that slash number when you're setting the address. When you're referring to an address that's already there, you don't use that. That's set correctly. Gig01 over here, this is our global unicast address of gig01. Here's our address, 2001 DB8:1:2 double colon 1. That address is correct. Down here for our serial 00, here's our global unicast address. Here's our address here in our addressing chart. 2001 DB8, 2001 DB8, 1 colon A001 A00. I got a typo in here. I have a typo. It should be A001. Instead, I typed in A01. Actually, I did that on purpose to show you this next step here. So we do have to go in and change this IP address on serial 00 interface. We need to change our global unicast address. In order to change this global unicast address, what you first have to do is delete the address. Now, to delete or undo something in the Cisco iOS, what you do is you put the word no, then a space, and then you put that command in you typed wrong. And so for me, that'd be IP version 6, the keyword of address, and then the wrong address when I'm in the interface. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Also, if you look over here at completion, I'm going to go on check results. When I click on check results, click on the assessment tab, scroll down to router 1, we can see that, hey, serial 00, I have some red X's. This should all be green right here. This should all be green. I have a couple of red X's, and I have red X by the startup config. I didn't get that step yet. That'll be coming up here shortly. But we need to go in and fix our IP addresses. In order to do that, click on R1 again. We are in privileged exec mode. Type in config T to get us into global configuration mode. Config T. There we go. If I spell config right, we'd get it. Go into the interface. Once again, that was serial 000 int space S0/0/0. We have to take out the old address, and we have to do that by starting with the word no, and then the command we entered in correctly. IP version 6 address. This is the wrong address right here. So I'm going to go ahead and type that address in. 2001 DB8 1 A01 2, and because we're working with setting addresses, we have to put the prefix in /64. Once again, notice no news is good news. That command should have executed as planned because Cisco didn't tell us otherwise. Now let's go ahead and set the correct IP address. The correct IP address is right here. IP version 6 space address 2001 DB8 1 A001 2, and because we're setting that, oh, I got to click in actually in the window. Got to type that over. 2001 DB8 1 A001 2. I have to put the prefix in because we're setting that IP address /64. There we go. I just get in the habit of always turning on an interface when I'm there. I'm going to type in no shutdown. I remember I did it already, but it's just a force of habit. Let's exit out, get into global configuration, then into privilege exec mode so we can enter in our command. Show IP version 6 int space br. You can abbreviate it down that far. And there we go. We can look at the serial 00 interface. We have our link local address, and then we have our global unicast address. 2001 DB8 1 A001 A001 2 We have the correct IP address. What we can do is also, we can notice our completion went up to 27%. Go ahead and click on results, assessment items, and notice we have all green check marks, especially right here underneath serial 000 where we had X or red X's before, and we still need to do save our startup config. I just haven't got to those steps yet. Let's scroll down here. And the last step for part 1, step 5, is save the configuration. To save the configuration, that's the copy command. It's copy, then where are you copying it from? It's the RAM, it's the running dash config, and then where are you copying it to? You're saving that to NVRAM. You're saving it to the startup dash config file. I'm going to go ahead and click on router 1 here. We are in privilege exec mode, so we can go ahead and copy right now. So copy space. We're going to take the running dash config, and then we're going to copy it to the startup config. Go ahead, hit enter, up arrow. I got to spell config correctly. Hit enter again. It's going to confirm, do you want to call it the destination file of startup config? If you do, all you have to do is hit enter. That's all I'm doing. It's going to go ahead and save it. I'm going to go and click on check results one more time. Assessment tab. And look at everything under R1 right now is a green check. We have successfully completed that. We are at, I'll go ahead and close this window, slide it over. At the end of part 1, we are at 28% completion. Part 1 is, I hope you're liking this episode on practical configuration examples. Leave a comment on what you think about these configuration examples. If you still have a question or comment, please let me know below. You can also visit my website at KevTechify.com for all of my details and how to get these episodes in video and podcast form. It's complete. On to part 2. Part 2, configure IPv6 addressing on the servers. We have 2 servers. We have the accounting server, and we have the CAD server. Part 2, step 1. Click on the accounting server. Go ahead and click on the accounting server. On the desktop tab, click on IP configuration. By default, at least on my computer, desktop tab was selected. Click on IP configuration. Opens up where we can go and manually set our IP addresses. B, set the IPv6 address to this with a prefix of 64. Right here is the IPv6 address field. I'm going to go ahead and set that up. 2001:DB8:1:1:4. And on a Windows system, you don't put the /64 in there. You don't put the prefix. That will give you an error. Instead, what you do is you go to the next field. The next field is right here. You put the prefix number in there. Just the number. You don't put a slash. The slash is already sort of programmatically in there. This is a simulation. And so we have the IPv6 address there. Then we have the prefix next to it. In the actual Windows, when you go and set it for an IPv6 address, you put the IPv6 address here, and then the field below it is where you put the prefix. The fields are pretty clearly labeled. I think you should do fine entering that in there. Part 2, step 1C, and set the IPv6 gateway to the link local address of FE80::1. So right here is our IPv6 gateway field. Set that to FE80::1. Once again, that is the link local address of the router interface on our network. Use that address instead of the global unicast address. One last thing I do when I'm setting an IP address here in Packet Tracer, I always just click to another field to make sure that all these values were set, that the software saved it, that the PC put it into its registry. I'm going to go ahead and close the accounting window here. That takes care of part 1. Part 1 here of step 2. On to step 2 here of part 2. Configure the CAD server. Here's the CAD server. Go ahead and click on that with addresses. So we're on the IP configuration tab again. As was done in step 1, refer to the addressing table for the addresses we should use. I'm going to scroll up. Here's our CAD server with our IPv6 address information. Go ahead, enter that in. 2001:DB8 :1:2, that's our network portion, :4, that is our interface ID. Enter in our prefix over here, no slash number, and also our invalid IPv6 address. I don't know what was wrong with it. I got to retype it again. 2001:DB8:1:2:4/64, and we have to enter in our IPv6 gateway, FE80:1. FE80:1. I click in another field. There you go. Our IPv6 address information is set. After we're done configuring our servers, we are up to a completion of 52%. That should take care of part 2. We did the accounting server, we did the CAD server. On to part 3. Configure IPv6 addressing on the clients. We have several clients down here. We need to configure those IPv6 addresses on those. Step 1, IPv6 addressing on sales and billing. We're going to start by clicking on the billing computer. The billing computer is actually a laptop right here. Go ahead and click on that. On our desktop tab, I click on IP configuration. 1B says set the IPv6 address to this with a prefix of /64. Go ahead and set that up. 2001:DB8:1:1:3 with a prefix of 64. I am doing something a little bit different. To change from field to field, I'm hitting the tab button. I find that a little bit quicker. So I'm going to type in 64. Now I'm going to hit tab twice. Hit tab once, that takes me into the local link address field. See how it was highlighted? I'm going to hit tab a second time. Now my cursor is in the IPv6 gateway field. Step 1C, set the IPv6 gateway to FE80:1. FE80:1. And then I'm going to hit tab one more time. Take the cursor down just to make sure all that information's been set. Our IPv6 information for the billing laptop is set. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Step 1D, repeat the steps for sales. See the addressing table for information. Here's the sales computer. Go ahead and click on that. Click on the IP configuration. Scroll up to our addressing table. Here's the sales information. Go ahead, enter that information in. 2001:DB8:1:1:2, prefix of 64, and our IPv6 default gateway FE80:1. That sets all of our IPv6 addressing information. I'm going to go ahead and close that information. Scroll down here. That takes care of part 3, step 1. We have that right here. On to part 3, step 2. We are looking at our configuration. They're telling us to click on the engineering. Do the engineering computer first. IP configuration. Set the IPv6 address to this with the prefix of 64. 2001:DB8:1:2:3, prefix of 64. Set the IPv6 gateway to FE80:1. FE80:1. That sets up our engineering computer with our IPv6 address. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Step 2D, repeat the steps for the design computer. Refer to the addressing table. Here's our design computer. Click on that. Click on our IP configuration tab. Scroll up. Look at our addressing table. Here's our design computer. Here's the IPv6 information for that. Go ahead, enter that in. 2001:DB8:1:2:2, prefix of 64, and the IPv6 gateway of FE80:1. The design computer is done. Takes us down. That takes care of all of part 3. We did billing, sales, engineering, and design. At this point in time, when you're done with part 3, you should be at 100% completion. If not, go ahead and click on check results, click on the assessment tab, and you can look in here and see, where do I have red X's? Go back in there, fix those up until you get all green X's, until it says completion of 100% as it is down here. On to part 4. Part 4, we're going to test and verify our network connectivity. First thing we're going to do is open up server web pages from the client. Both the accounting server and the CAD server, they're both opening web servers. And what we're going to do is, from each of our clients, sales, billing, design, and engineering, we're going to open up the web pages on both of them. Part 4, step 1, click on the sales computer. They're going to have us do sales first. Click on the desktop tab. I close the IP configuration. Click on web browser. Now the web browser is here. What I typically do is I make this sales window wider left to right, and here's the web browser tab. Go ahead, click on that. Loads in a web browser. This is a very minimalistic web browser, but it is still a web browser. Enter in the address for that first server. Here it is. 2001:DB8:1:1:4. Oh, it's a double :4. Make sure you get that in there. There you go. And we have connected into the accounting web server. Yes, it's a very simple web page, but yet it still shows us that works. The accounting website should appear. Enter in this next IP address. If we notice, the global routing prefix, the first 3 hextets, they're the same. The subnet ID, that 4th hextet, is different. What they just had us entered was a 1. What they're asking us to enter now in step C, that's a 2. That makes it on separate networks. That identifies the different servers or different networks here to connect into. All we have to do is go up here and change that 1. It's the second one. Change that from a 1 to a 2. Go ahead and enter. We are connected into the CAD server. There we go. Sales computer has connected into both of the web servers. Now I'm just going to work my way through. I'm going to click on billing. Make the window a little bit wider. Click on web browser. Enter in the IPv6 address of the first server. 2000:DB8:1:1:4. There's the accounting server. I'm just going to go and change this to a 2. And there's our CAD server. Billing has successfully connected to both web servers. Next client right here is the design client. Open that up. Open up the web browser. Type in our version IP6 address. 2001:DB8:1:1:4. Here's our accounting server. Change the second 1 to a 2. That gives us our CAD server. Design server connected into both of them. Last client right here is the engineering client. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Open up our web browser. Type in the first IPv6 address, 2001:DB8:1:1:4. The accounting server. Change the second 1 to a 2. There's our CAD server. All 4 clients, sales, billing, design, and engineering, they both were able to connect to both the accounting server website and the CAD server website. That takes care of part 4, step 1. On to part 4, step 2. We're going to ping the ISP on any client. And if we look here, they're going to have us use all the other clients. So we're going to ping from all 4 clients. We're going to use the command prompt, and we're going to use the ping command, and we're going to put in the IPv6 address of ISP. and we're going to ping it. I'm just going to start at the left and work my way across to the right. So I'm going to click on sales, open up our command prompt, type in ping space 2001 colon db8 colon 1 colon a001 double colon 1. There we go. Sales is able to ping our ISP. Click on the billing computer, open up our command prompt, ping 2001 colon db8 colon 1 colon a001 double colon 1. Billing is able to successfully ping our ISP. On to the third client, the design computer. Open up our command prompt, ping 2001 colon db8 colon 1 colon 1 double 2001 colon db8 colon 1 colon a001 double colon 1. There we go. Design is able to ping our ISP. And for the last step in this lab, engineering, PC, can we ping the ISP? Open up our command prompt, ping 2001 colon db8 colon 1 colon a001 colon double colon 1. And there we have it. All four of our clients, sales, billing, design, and engineering, they are all able to ping ISP. We have full connectivity in our network. That was Packet Tracer 12.6.6, Configure IPv6 Addressing. It was my pleasure to provide you with this wonderful episode on configuration examples. If you like this episode and you got value out of it, please click that like button, give a 5-star rating, leave a comment. This all helps me bring you more great content. Please take a minute to subscribe to my channel. All my socials and contact information are on my website, KevTechify.com. There you can find out how to get all these episodes in video and podcast form. Thank you so much for watching this episode of my series on practical configuration examples for the CCNA. I've created 4 wonderful playlists for you on the CCNA. These episodes, I go through all the concepts that Cisco calls out for the CCNA. Once again, I'm Kevin. This is KevTechify. I'll see you next time for another great adventure.